Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take good care. Nick Wilde, a chaperone in Las Vegas who is in recovery from addiction to gambling, works odd jobs. One of the odd jobs is for a wealthy mama's boy who is having relationship issues with a woman who is beyond his league. He sets up a phony situation and then allows the client to display his manly side so that his sweetheart would fall in love with her courageous man. A second time the following morning, as Nick is on his way to work, a young guy called Cyrus approaches him. Cyrus is a significant gambler who needs protection, and although Nick is first hesitant to accept the task because there is a lot of money involved, he eventually decides to do so. He arrives at a diner and is greeted there by the customer he assisted yesterday, who is overjoyed and pays him his tip plus an additional $500. While making himself a true man's drink at the diner, Nick is pleased for him but declines the extra. It's always a joy doing business with Nick. A note from a woman he knows is handed to him by the waiter of his acquaintance, requesting him to see her. Holly, a trained escort, was brutally assaulted. Holly hugs Nick when he asks who did this to her because she doesn't know. After her date last night, she entered an elevator with 3 men, one of whom was a young man in charge. They dragged her to their suite under the guise of a party before humiliating forcing on and brutally beating her. They then dumped her out in the parking lot of a hospital. Holly asks Nick to find out who they are so she can file a lawsuit against them. Nick claims that he isn't a detective and that it's difficult to track down people in Las Vegas, particularly at the Golden Nugget Hotel. He had previously warned her to avoid the situation. He declines to assist her. The incident leaves him with a bad taste, so he visits the Golden Nugget to see what he can find out. He is a man with many friends, and a housekeeper who works there is one of them. He asks her for some details about the incident. She tells Nick that DeMarco is danger and that he should keep away from him when they later cross paths in the restaurant. Nick discovers that the person who attacked Holly was Danny DeMarco, the son of a mobster, which explains why he is constantly guarded by 2 strong males. When Holly phones him, he informs her that he hasn't uncovered any information about her attackers, but she quickly confronts him about his fabrication of the events that led to DeMarco's humiliation of her. The following evening, Nick picks up Cyrus and takes him to see Las Vegas and all of its opulent casinos before settling on a rundown casino. The highlight of Nick's career has been guarding a boy who has wagered $10 on a roll of the dice. Nick shows him 100 tables, but Cyrus prefers the $10 ones because he believes the pleasure lasts longer that way. Disappointed, Nick is confident that no one will rob Cyrus and leaves him alone. Nick visits Holly and informs her of DeMarco's whereabouts, but he declines to provide any further assistance. However, she understands how to exert pressure on Nick into doing what she wants him to do, and he feels as though he has no other option. He is enraged by Holly's deceit in claiming she intends to sue DeMarco when in reality she just wants his nuts, and Nick is a sucker for her charm when it comes to her sweet talk. Nick goes to the hotel to confront DeMarco while posing as a representative of the baby Las Vegas mafia boss. Claiming that DeMarco is Holly's pimp, Nick wants to settle the conflict amicably. DeMarco even offers him $50,000 as compensation, but things aren't quite that straightforward. DeMarco begins to belittle Nick, forcing him to address him as sir and convince him of his virtues in the hopes that he will be allowed to live. In addition to displaying his ID card, Nick claims to be an honest worker. DeMarco, a nice man, orders his goons to beat him up a bit, and at that point, Nick gives up on the amicable resolution. He breaks one thug's leg and slices the other's forehead with a card before beating him up again later. DeMarco tries to shoot Nick, but once more the card intervenes, rendering him unconscious. When DeMarco regains consciousness, he and his goons are bound up, and Holly is there to greet him. She reminds him of her, and this time she has come prepared to the celebration. DeMarco, who had previously maintained composure, is now on the verge of tears as he tells her about the money. She throws the stack to Nick, but for her, it's not about the money. Instead, she treats him the same way she treated her and wants to hear that he loves her. If she doesn't believe it, little DeMarco is going to go off. Holly considered castrating DeMarco, but he breaks down and begs for her forgiveness, so she decides to take the money and leave outside. Since Nick took the risk and Holly took the beating, they split the money and went their separate ways with all that money in front of him. Nick suggests he should do the same. Nick knows he needs to visit a casino immediately to satisfy his gambling urge. He sits down at a blackjack table and begins with a little bet of $5 to try his luck. He hits a 19 and draws a 2, but since it's his last night in Vegas, he immediately exchanges $1,000 for one chip. Soon, he has 2, then 4, then 8,000, and each time he wins, he doubles his bet. Unfortunately, the dealer's shift is over, so he packs up his chips and orders a drink at the bar. He sees Cyrus and believes he struck it fortunate with the dealer, but a strange epiphany strikes him. How can he know luck is gone if he never tried it? He returns and is once more on a roll with many hands, and he begins playing the entire table with maximum stakes. He informs Cyrus about his ambitions to leave the nation and live the life of his dreams while Cyrus is there silently supporting him. After winning his last hand and reaching the milestone of $506 grand, he decides to resign. With this money, Nick even feels generous and leaves a $6,000 tip for the waitress. However, as Nick is making his way to the register, he suddenly experiences a panic attack and tells Cyrus that he needs more money to ensure that he never finds himself in this situation again. Nick then decides to keep playing the slots and wagers the full $500,000. He wins $25,000 on a single blackjack hand, defeating the dealer's 10 with a 17. He chooses to hit, exactly as he did in the beginning, hoping to get a 4. Unfortunately, he busts, and to make matters worse, the dealer had 16, which would have meant victory for Nick if he had followed the rules. Nick puts his money away like any gambler would. I came here with $25,000. I lost $25,000. It's not a huge thing, but it hurts nonetheless when he loses control in the lavatory and becomes intoxicated to the point of passing out. The following morning, Cyrus, who had gone to Las Vegas to see him under the pretense that he needed Nick as a bodyguard to get closer to him, confesses that he is a self-made millionaire and wants Nick to teach him to be bold. Cyrus may assist him financially if Nick can teach him not to be terrified of life, but Nick declines, claiming that money cannot help him because he was rich yesterday and is now poor again and that he will rot in the grave. He returns to the casino bar when 2 of DeMarco's men arrive to take him to their boss. He has a flashback to losing everything the day before and uses his rage to disarm the 2 of them in a matter of seconds. Additional thugs then emerge, but he is unfazed by them and fights them off until the police arrive. Nick meets Baby, the head of the Las Vegas mob. Baby has received a complaint from DeMarco, who claims Nick broke into his hotel room, pistol whipped him, and killed 2 of his men in order to support his gambling habit. Baby then takes Nick to a room with DeMarco, where Nick presents his version of events, claiming that DeMarco murdered his own men. Baby asks DeMarco to drop his pants to prove him wrong when he claims that he has a cut on his little pecker from when he left the hotel. DeMarco declines on moral grounds, and both Nick and Baby start laughing. It turns out that Baby and Nick are really good friends, but he can't assist Nick with what is about to happen. Cyrus meets him and tells him he's leaving, but not before thanking Nick for teaching him that everyone in the world is. DeMarco will come for him, so he returns to his favorite diner. He still appears unsatisfied after Cyrus gives him a check for $500,000 along with a ticket to Corsica. The reason being that he will be killed at any time. DeMarco and his men arrive at the diner, and it appears that this is the beginning of the end for him when all of a sudden Cyrus displays his newly discovered manliness by singing loudly to divert DeMarco and allow Nick to flee. This strategy works perfectly, and they pursue Nick while DeMarco declares that he will turn the entire town upside down to find Nick, who is carrying knives up on the roof. In order to see his ideal existence, Nick plugs his ears, but he first wants to be at peace with himself. He begins stabbing them with his kitchen utensils, and having guns doesn't help them any either. When only he and DeMarco are left to fight, he lets him land a few punches before finishing him off. Cyrus then demands that Nick accept the check-in ticket and agrees to call Cyrus a good friend. At first, then, Nick ultimately departs Las Vegas to pursue his goal. We appreciate your interest and encourage you to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.